Yo, I just realized that I gave you guys only my first term's worth of Rate My Professor reviews, and honestly, leaving you guys hanging like that is probably not the best thing, so I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of my entire year's worth of courses, all in a tier list. This tier list idea was kind of inspired by me just randomly watching tier lists of frogs, I don't know. I pretty much watched all the videos on this channel. So yeah, today I'm going to give you guys my completely objective opinion that is totally not subjective on what I think about all my courses that I took in my first year of the medical sciences program at Western University. Hopefully you can tell this video isn't serious. And yeah, let's get on with it. So, welcome to the tier list. As you can tell, this is my severely serious science sessions from year one. Let's have fun with this. So our school has a weird naming system for subjects, which there's always a number attached to it. So if you hear some random numbers after every subject, then yeah, that's basically what it is. So let's start with Psych 1000. And I thought that this was a pretty easy course because it's just an intro to psychology. That easily goes into the A tier. A because that's pretty much what you're going to get with this course. It's just memorization. But there is one thing. The professor teaches with so much passion that it makes the class a lot more fun.
Psychology turned me on. And I think that that's the most important thing that a student can do. What is it that turns you on?
Enough said. So that brings it up to the S tier. Next is Calc 1000. Normally I'll be pretty indifferent and pretty neutral on this course, but because this exam was so good, and I just love calculus, and because of the very fact that the course is at 8:30 in the morning, which is my favorite time to go to class, this is easily the best class going into the S tier. This S tier, FS, stands for f***ing sucks. I don't even think I made it to half the calculus classes because even if I was awake on time, there's very few things that would actually bring me outside my dorm room. Food is one of them, the gym is one of them, but calculus? Try again. The next course is Math 1201. Originally, this was going to go in the S tier for sick meme because the professor likes going on Reddit and making jokes like that in class, but this is going in the E tier because it's math. But because the professor has all these little quizzes for free marks, and he makes the tests not very hard, the E tier really stands for easy money because of all the freebie marks that he gives in this class. So realistically, much better. The next course is Bio 1001, and the difference between this and the other bio is that this one's in the first semester because it has the A. I'm pretty neutral on bio, so I'm gonna have to put it in the B tier. Not B for bio, but B for basic, because it's a pretty standard biology course. But because I couldn't really stand the professor's voice because she was kind of yelling a lot, I'm going to have to bump this down to the C tier. Also, we were learning about evolution, which is not one of my favorite sections of biology to cover. So yeah, C tier. Pretty mediocre. So with that, it only makes sense that I go to the second term biology, Bio 1002, Bio 1002. Still don't know how to say these course codes. 1002, 1002, whatever. But because I actually got used to the shouting professor and I think she did a better job this time, I'm going to have to put this in the C tier. I mean the B tier. So here's a pretty nice picture of one of the professors who teaches this course. I think the B tier is justified. That might bump it up to the A tier, but I'm going to stand firm and keep it in the B tier. So next we have Chem 1301. And I was going to put this in the S tier or the easy money tier because honestly I thought that chemistry was pretty easy in the first year. But I know that it's not easy for everyone, so I don't really want to get shit on in the comment section. So I'm going to put this in the A tier because it was pretty easy and pretty basic to follow. Actually, screw it. You guys can roast me in the comment section. I'm putting this in the easy money tier. So now let's move to Chem 1302, and I'm going to say that this one's going to go in the A tier, because even though I had a better mark in this course compared to the first chem, for the most part, I choked on the exam. So that bumps it down a couple tiers, since it took me a lot more effort to maintain that mark than it did in the first term. This is the more quantitative side of chemistry, so it involves more numbers, and because that's math, let's bump it down to the B tier. And let us not forget, I had to use this really shitty calculator. So I'm going to bump it down even lower to the C tier for crappy calculator. So let's move on to one of my favorite subjects, which I'm really glad that I don't have to take anymore, which is physics. 1028, which is the first term physics. It sucks. Easy D tier. The only redeeming factor that stops it from the FS tier is because the first professor that teaches this course is pretty funny, and he makes the exams pretty easy. And despite that, I still got shit on by easy questions. So, that is very sad. Easy D tier. And next is Physics 1029, and this time, this one's going in the FS tier. Or we can just call it the F tier. Since this time, that funny professor is no longer teaching, and now he's replaced, for the most part, by a slightly monotone professor that loves deriving equations. I don't get why he loves doing it so much, but you're going to hear a couple times where he says that I am so excited by deriving these equations. So that is not normal. I don't think it's very normal, at least. You tell me. Any of you guys like deriving equations like that? Anyway, these last few items aren't really courses on their own, but they're the laboratories that go along with the courses. But I feel like I would rank them separately because they take up enough time each day to classify it as a class of their own, being that each lab is 3 hours long, but you get to leave early if you finish early. They're bi-weekly, except for bio, which is weekly. So let's start with bio. So bio's first term lab, I'm going to have to give this one a solid A. This is because they really dumbed down the labs, and it wasn't anything that I thought it would be. These labs were really easy, and they're more like a team bonding type of activity in which you have 3 other students in your group, and I really liked my group. So I kind of got lucky there, but that's a solid A for me. Now we have bio 1002. Whatever. I'm just going to say second term bio. Screw these numbers. Next I have the second term bios lab, and I'm going to have to give that one a B grade. Not because my group was bad. I'm not saying that just to appease my group, because I don't really care what people think of me. Or at least that's what I like to tell myself. But it's not because of the group, but because of the organization. The wet lab portion of this laboratory session was so out of whack. The TAs didn't even know what to do, and they were randomly instructing us to do things that we weren't supposed to do. And generally, we were all confused about what we were actually doing in the lab. So it was not very well run, and the only saving grace were my group mates themselves. I thought that we all did a good job in contributing, and yeah, bio labs get a pretty good grade just because of the group members, but the organization can use a little bit of work. So let's move to the chem labs. And Chem 1301 easily gets a solid A. For this lab, you only get one lab partner, and my partner was pretty good. We did the labs pretty quickly, and we just got out of there, usually halfway through the lab. So this always gave me a good feeling, and we got pretty good marks for this lab because you just answer questions on a sheet and hand it in. So yeah, 3 marks gets an easy A. Now Chem 1302's lab was still easy marks, but I'm going to have to put it in the C tier. Because no shade, realistically I am throwing shade. But my lab partner, I don't know what he was doing. You're not allowed to be on your phone in this lab, but there he was on his phone sometimes. And he's one of those partners where you have to really just give him instructions. But at the same time, this experience with this type of lab partner really helped me learn to be better at giving instructions and try to be patient for the most part. But because it was slightly infuriating for the first couple labs, I'm going to have to give it the C tier. Because my lab partner was just chilling. So we have the physics labs last, and here we have 1028's lab. Yeah. I'm gonna have to give this one the F tier. My lab partner was meh. He says a lot of random, slightly depressing things. I didn't really have much of an issue with him though, because I think he was just memeing the entire time. But the annoying thing about physics labs are that they're pretty long, and usually they take a lot more time than the other 2 labs. And the thing about the other labs is that for chem, you can hand in the lab report a week before your next lab, so you basically have a week to write it up. But for the physics lab, you have to hand it in pretty much right when you're done. But the saving grace is that this is pass-fail, so you're most likely going to get your marks. But because the labs have more moving pieces than the other ones, which means it's probably going to be more complex, it holds me back from going home and getting lunch. So that goes to the F tier. And last but not least is 1029's lab. And this one is going in the D tier. Pretty much the same idea with 1028's labs, but the thing is there's one less lab, being that there are only 3 labs in 1029 versus the 4 that are in 1028's. That's literally the only reason it gets a bump up. So yeah, that's the tier list. Totally objective, not opinionated, definitely not opinionated. Okay, so as I was editing, I kind of realized that I forgot to mention that your enjoyment of your labs will depend on a few factors like your group mates and your TA. Whether or not they explain things clearly or whether or not they're in a good mood or in a bad mood that day. It really depends on the people that are actually involved in your lab and not so much the lab material itself that will tip the scale of enjoyment when you're in those lab sessions. So yeah, just quickly going to mention that. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you found it helpful or maybe slightly entertaining, I don't know, I really kind of winged this. So I hope it comes up better than I think it will. But yeah, smash the like button and hit subscribe with post notifications on so you can see more videos like this. And yeah, have fun with the rest of your summer. And yeah, that's it. See ya. Oh, done. Next we have Bio 1002. Next we have Bio 1002s. Next we have 10. Now we have Now we have Bio 1002. Whatever.